If you just look out a window right now, your brain immediately starts putting the world into these neat little
Oh,
boxes.
absolutely. It's just human nature.
Right. Like you see a towering glass skyscraper and your brain files it under engineering or architecture, but then you see a bumblebee buzzing around a window box. And, well, that gets filed under biology, right?
Uh-huh.
Or nature.
Yeah, we treat the built world and the natural world as completely different categories, which, I mean, makes perfect sense on a surface level.
Exactly.
One is forged from steel and concrete and human blueprints, and the other is just this organic, messy result of millions of years of evolution. They operate on entirely different rules.
But what if those rules were actually just an illusion?
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Welcome to the Learner Yes, you listening right now to another deep dive. Because today, our mission is to step into this highly specific, fiercely uncompromising framework that argues the skyscraper and the bumblebee are actually constructed from the exact same three-part cosmic recipe.
It is quite a wild ride, honestly.
It really is. We are unpacking a dense, deeply philosophical text from 2006 by an author named Su Feng. It's titled Wisdom Chapter 79, Consciousness, Structure, Energy.
And it has massive intellectual ambition. I mean, the text attempts to strip away the overwhelming complexity of the whole universe and boil it down to just three fundamental building blocks.
Just three.
Yeah. It starts with basic observable physics and then systematically scales up to some truly staggering theological absolutes.
And okay, because it scales up to those absolutes, we need to set some ground rules for today's deep dive.
Right, very important.
This source material operates as the ideological foundation for an organization called the Life Zen Institute. It delves into highly specific religious doctrines, absolute moral claims, and some very politically charged ideological frameworks.
Yeah, it does not hold back.
So to be absolutely clear with you, the listener,
Yeah.
we are not endorsing, validating, or taking sides on any of the viewpoints presented here.
Not at all.
The goal of this deep dive is strictly impartial. We are unpacking the author's unique framework purely as a thought experiment, just to convey the ideas exactly as they are laid out in the original source material.
It's just fascinating architecture to observe from the outside, you know? The author is incredibly methodical.
Methodical is a good word for it.
They build this logical trap, step by step, trying to lock the reader into a worldview where physical reality and spiritual morality are governed by the exact same mechanical laws.
And honestly, by the time we finish unpacking this, you genuinely might look at everything from a skyscraper to a bumblebee in a completely different way.
Oh, for sure.
So let's start at the foundational layer, the physical world. The text argues a really firm premise, which is, without structure, there is no material.
Right. The author is basically asking us how we differentiate anything in reality. Like, if the universe were just a soup of raw particles, there'd be no object.
Just a blur.
Exactly. The only reason a thing exists is because it has a specific geometry.
And the examples they give are brilliantly simple. Like if you are searching for a specific person in a crowded train station, the only way you recognize them is because their physical structure is different from everyone else's.
Yeah, the geometry of their face, their height, their shoulders.
Right. Or if you look at a massive field of flowers, your eye can instantly pick out a single peony. Why? Purely because the structural arrangement of its petals is unique.
What's fascinating here is how the author takes that highly visible concept of structure and binds it to something completely invisible, energy.
Yes, the energy aspect.
In this framework, energy in its natural state is entirely formless. It's just this boundless, shapeless potential. It only becomes useful or takes a geometric shape when it attaches itself to a structure.
Okay, let's unpack this. Is the author saying that energy is basically like a universal radio signal, and structure is just the specific shape of the antenna you build to catch a certain station?
That is an excellent analogy, yes.
Like one antenna catches the jazz station and another catches the news.
Precisely. The author explicitly treats energy as something completely neutral, kind of like air or water. It doesn't have an agenda. It's the physical structure that does all the selecting.
And I love the real-world evidence the text brings in to prove this. They talk about architecture, specifically the pyramids.
Oh, yeah, the pyramids example is wild.
They argue the unique energy-gathering nature of the pyramids comes down entirely to their physical design. And then they apply the exact same logic to agriculture.
Right, crop rotation. Farmers know you can't plant the exact same crop in the exact same soil year after year.
Because different plant structures require specific nutrients, like nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium.
Exactly. The physical architecture of the plant dictates its diet. The text even points to human technology. Look at a solar cooker or a solar water heater.
They don't have an internal fire or a battery.
Nope. They function solely because their physical geometric shape is structured to capture and concentrate ambient energy. The shape itself does the work. Look at trains, trucks, cars. They have different load capacities entirely because of their engine structures.
The author even strips away the complexity of biological digestion. They just bluntly say, hey, flies eat different things than bees. Tigers eat differently than cows.
Fundamentally because their digestive tract structures are different, structure catches energy. End of story.
It's a very compelling unified theory of physics. But this is just a setup, because if we accept that structure dictates energy, it naturally leads to the next big problem.
Who is building the structures?
Exactly. If the universe is full of millions of different antennas catching different frequencies, where did the antennas come from?
And this is where the text makes a major pivot from the physical world into the realm of the mind.
The author asks us to zoom out. Picture a city skyline of skyscrapers, or girls dressed in these colorful, varied fashions, or the dazzling array of goods in a supermarket. Who created these?
I mean, the rational instinct is to say human hands did it.
Right. But the text rejects that entirely.
Yeah.
They argue that hands and feet are totally lost without the mind directing them. A hand doesn't know what a skyscraper is.
So true.
Therefore, all these varied structures are actually the direct product of consciousness.
It's a critical escalation. They're establishing a rigid hierarchy. Energy takes orders from structure. Structure takes orders from consciousness.
So consciousness is the prime mover.
Yes. The text says, all dharmas return to one origin, and that one is consciousness.
I mean, that's heavy. Everything else in the universe is fleeting, flashy, and ultimately an illusion. The skyscraper is just materialized thought.
Exactly.
And there's this really beautiful metaphor the text uses here. It says, fragrance attracts butterflies.
I love that line.
It means we shouldn't stress out about finding energy. We shouldn't run around with a net trying to catch butterflies. If we build the right structure via our consciousness, if we become the flower, the right energy will naturally flock to us.
On an individual level, that's a highly empowering philosophy. But of course, the text pushes the logic to its absolute cosmic limit.
Because there's a glaring loophole, right? Human consciousness might have built the skyscraper, but human consciousness definitely did not build the bumblebee.
Or the tiger's stomach, or the solar system.
Right. So what created the infinite, bizarre structures of nature? And here is where the source makes a massive theological leap. The text asserts that the universe itself has a consciousness, and that consciousness is God.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author is really synthesizing Eastern philosophy with modern physics vocabulary.
Yeah, the language they use is super interesting.
They describe God not just as a figure, but as antimatter, and the way, or the Tao, that permeates all space and time, across both the positive universe and the negative universe.
Finding this source supposedly turns darkness to light, complexity to simplicity, and suffering to joy.
It's presented as the ultimate master key to reality.
But here's where it gets really interesting, and honestly, incredibly intense, because up until now, this has been an abstract discussion about physics and the mind. But now the text introduces the core tenet of the Life Zen Institute.
The absolute touchstone.
Yes. Revere God, walk God's way. Sounds simple enough, right?
But it's not just a suggestion.
No. The author uses this doctrine as an absolute binary test for all of reality. The text claims that literally any person, theory, spiritual practice, religion, political party, or government that does not follow this specific path is fundamentally evil.
The language they use is brutal. They call anything outside this path a tumor on humanity.
A tumor. And what happens to tumors? The text says they will be eliminated.
The universe will just eradicate them, zero room for debate.
It's a staggering escalation. So again, I want to check in with you, the listener, and reestablish our impartiality here. We are mapping out claims about tumors and absolute evil, which are incredibly intense and uncompromising.
Very uncompromising.
Our goal is simply to show how the author's logic flows straight from crop rotation and energy physics right into this rigid theological worldview. We are not endorsing this worldview ourselves.
Right, we're just tracing the architecture of the argument. You agree with premise A, and suddenly they've locked you into premise Z.
Exactly. So what does this all mean? Let's bring this cosmic theory down to daily life. According to the text, a being's consciousness determines their life form. and they categorize entities across a wild spectrum.
It starts out pretty normal. You have the foolish, the vulgar, the ordinary, and the wise.
But then it just crosses straight into the supernatural. It includes immortals, demons, and monsters in that exact same spectrum.
And the ultimate goal, the text's final thesis, is that by focusing entirely on elevating your consciousness through their prescribed path, you actually change the physical structure of your life.
You upgrade your antenna.
Exactly. This allows you to absorb higher level energy, achieve immortal status, and reach what they call the ideal shore.
The ideal shore. So you just think your way into a new geometry, absorbing mortal energy and transcend the universe.
It's the ultimate cosmic self-improvement promise.
But then, there is a very strange conclusion to this document. I found it almost slightly humorous, honestly.
It is such a bizarre tonal shift.
After all this talk of antimatter, eliminating tumors, and reaching the ideal shore, the final line of the source text asserts that all government officials, corporate bosses, and industry leaders already perfectly understand these universal principles.
This raises an important question. Why does the author feel the need to align esoteric cosmic spiritual truths with the assumed knowledge of modern corporate and political management?
I mean, it feels like a punchline. We just spent 20 pages learning to transcend the vulgar material world, and then we're told a middle manager at a Fortune 500 company has already mastered it.
Well, if you trace the author's logic back, it actually possesses a dark consistency.
Wait, really?
Think about it. Consciousness dictates structure. Structure dictates the absorption of energy. In the physical human world, how does energy manifest? As capital, as resources, as political power.
Oh, wow. I see what you're saying.
If a corporate boss has amassed massive amounts of power, the framework demands that they must have built the correct internal structure to absorb that energy. They built the antenna for dominance, so the energy of dominance flocked to them.
The fragrance attracted the butterflies. That is a terrifyingly brilliant way to map divine cosmic logic onto the ruthlessness of the modern corporate ladder.
It's very revealing about the underlying assumptions of the text.
Yeah, power is never an accident in this worldview. Okay, wow. Let's take a breath and summarize this journey. We went from crop rotation and solar cookers to the idea that consciousness builds structure.
To a sweeping theological worldview where cosmic consciousness dictates the exact nature of good, evil, and human evolution.
And here is the listener takeaway. I'm talking to you directly now. Whether you agree with the author's religious conclusions or fundamentally reject them, the foundational idea here is a really powerful mental model.
It really is.
The way you structure your mind, your curiosity, your critical thinking, your openness directly dictates the type of energy, like knowledge, insights, and relationships that you are capable of absorbing from the world.
You are the architect of your own antenna.
Exactly. And I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over. Building on the source's physics.
Oh, here we go.
The author claims that consciousness creates structure, which attracts energy. Well, right now, humanity is on the absolute verge of creating artificial general intelligence.
A true, non-human mind.
Yes. If an AI develops its own true consciousness, what bizarre, entirely new structures will it build in our world? And what kind of unimaginable cosmic energy will those new structures attract?
That is wild to think about. If it builds structures we can't even comprehend, it might tune into a frequency humanity has never heard before.
Something to keep you up at night, for sure. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the absolute frameworks you encounter, and most importantly, keep structuring your mind to catch the best signals out there. See you next time.